And hello, everybody. Welcome to Friday Night's After Show. It's so good to be with you on this Friday night. Hi, Greg Oliar. How are you?
Hi, Zev. How's it going?
Pretty good. We're the warm-up act tonight. We're waiting for LB to join us in just a few minutes. She's having some computer problems, which are just, I hate having computer problems, and I'm sure she's not loving having them just at airtime. So she'll be joining us in just a few minutes. We have really an interesting show tonight because those Kremlin Papers were revealed by The Guardian last night, and we'll talk a lot about what that means and why so many people were rushing to discredit it even before any of us had seen it.
They were Russian.
They were Russian.
It's right there. It's right there. So.
It's so easy. It was such a good one.
Got to do the gimme. Got to take the gimme.
Yeah, you're right. Let me see. I see LB might be here. Let me see. No, is she ready? Let me see. Hi. Are you there, LB?
I'm here.
You're here. We can hear you.
Oh, good.
Better?
Much better.
Yes.
We can hear you. Sound great.
Yeah.
Yay.
Sorry.
That was a bit of touch and go. But it's great to have you here. You've been away for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
We'll explain all of that a little later on. But we got a lot of interesting news to talk about tonight. But it's good to see you again. So welcome back.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here.
So we should talk about the Kremlin Papers first. I was going to talk about, while I had just Greg here, I was going to mention how brilliant his podcast was today. Again, because I just spend so much time every Friday morning just engrossed in it. This was really interesting. I'd not heard Kirby Summers talk about her book or talk about her experiences before regarding Ghislaine Maxwell and Robert Maxwell and Epstein. And I think she's actually written something that's useful compared to a lot of the other junk that's out there that is not so useful on Ghislaine Maxwell. I feel like she's really revealed some of the stuff that's hard for the mainstream media to get at.
There's some interesting stories in there for sure. There's definitely a lot of things that I didn't know, and her book, this new book, it's just the first 30 years of her life. So it's not about the Epstein stuff really at all. It's almost the precursor to that.
Okay.
So a lot of it is about Robert Maxwell, who we'll talk about later. A lot of the podcast was about Robert Maxwell too, because I think he's really interesting. So
really interesting. After I listened to the podcast, I went through all my files, through all my Maxwell files, and dug up some things that I'd not shared before, and we'll share them a little bit later on in the show. So
I'm
that'll be really
excited
fun.
for this.
Yeah, it'll be a good time.
Cue this up, guys. It's really good.
But let's talk about the Kremlin Papers first. So, there they were in the Guardian newspaper, huge exclusive yesterday. Luke Harding's very good reporting, having received these secret documents from an unknown source, which seemed to detail exactly how Vladimir Putin ordered his National Security Council to get Trump elected in great detail in a meeting that was on the 22nd of January, 2016. And I just thought it was like the biggest bombshell we've had in a long time. Certainly the smoking gun we were all looking for. If we didn't need, there were so many smoking guns, but this really was the smoking gun. And I was like, wow, this is finally here. Then 2 seconds later, I'm turning on the news media and everyone's like saying, oh, well, it could be a hoax. It could be that they're trying to catch the newspaper journalists, or they're trying to, it's like a trap for them. And how do we know that it's the real thing? I'm like, well, it's The Guardian. It's Luke Harding. It's probably a very, thought about piece. They probably got it from a very credible source. And why are we questioning it when it seems to fit in with the narrative that we have already proven has existed for so long? It's just a natural inclination of the mainstream media to just jump all over a story and destroy it before anyone's had a chance to even enjoy the fact that we finally have a smoking gun. Never mind to act on the fact that we have a smoking gun, because that's a pretty big deal.
It is.
Agreed.
Either.
Well, and then you have you have the Google Intel Squad, weighing in with expertise on rather than just and actual Intel professionals on Twitter, voicing some skepticism, but yes, it does sound right, and so I prepared a prop to help us.
Yeah.
Okay, here it goes.
Okay.
I didn't write it backwards. Okay, so this is
this-
what I call it my reality bubble.
Yeah. I'll put you
My
in the
voice
big
is a little
put you in
scratchy.
here.
So yeah.
And then I'll do
Okay,
that. And then
good.
there you go. Now you can show us.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Okay, so this is my reality bubble, and then this is the story list.
Right.
And we're going to put facts and data in the reality bubble so that we can separate it from everybody's stories. Because everyone has a lot of stories to tell about something that they are just reading in the news.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not me being patronizing. This is me saying we got to boil everything down to real simple shit here, everyone.
Yeah.
Okay. So reality. Let's start with this question. Luke Harding is probably one of the longest reporters out of, he ran the Moscow bureau desk for The Guardian for years and years and years. And Steele was his big source before anybody's. He wrote about Litvinenko, who was close to that case. He knows the operations inside and out of how Russian oligarchs, Russian mafia, Russian intelligence services work and don't work. Now, years ago, he did kind of get ensnared in that Snowden book thing. And, it was like before anyone was really figuring out what Snowden was. We got to ask some questions, right? So first of all, this really is a black and white issue, okay? You're either in the camp of Luke Harding is some kind of nefarious, sinister character who's just weaving these fucking stories to, I don't know what, whatever. Or he has real sources and he knows his job well and he vetted this. Because
not only him, two other journalists on the byline.
Two other journalists. This is the man who's been reporting out about organized crime in Russia in the former Soviet bloc for years and years and years.
He was chased out of Russia by Putin because he's so good.
That's right. That's right. Okay,
he's not messing around here.
I feel like we could put some things in the reality bubble, but you guys might think it's a story. Is it reality or is it a story that Luke Harding knows how to do his job?
I'd say Luke knows how to do his job. Plus, you've got two other journalists who know how to do their jobs. Plus, the Guardian newspaper, which is a pretty darn good newspaper, doesn't get things wrong. I can't really think of too many times they've gotten things wrong. So I'd say you've got a lot of credibility built in there.
Okay, so Luke knows his job and sources. Everybody see, that's reality. And the rest of it is just story shit, right? It's people making stuff up and giving their opinion. Okay, right. All right, that goes in there. All right,
so
next.
It's not, the likelihood of this being a hoax in that someone has actually set up Luke and these other journalists, it's a story. There's no ways that's possible. There's a way that's possible, but really, we were expecting the Putin team to be incredibly creative.
That's a story. That's a story. It could be a true story. We could knock this out of the reality bubble if we get more information.
Right.
But right now, I think this is important. And who else do we hear that word hoax from when it comes to the Kremlin and what they have to say of what they know about Donald Trump? You hear that from Donald Trump. So let's not do that, guys.
That's hoax is his term. It really is his term.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, reality bubble number 2. This is an important data point, the second data point. So we have this, we've had Craig Unger. Sorry, guys. It's so hot in California. I'm melting, even though the air.
It is also hot in New York. So
it's not that hot in Toronto, but it's okay. You look great, so don't worry about it. It's giving you a glow.
But I got sweat everywhere, it's
just glow. So, it's all good.
It's glow.
Yeah.
So, okay. We know from Craig Unger, we know from Yuri Shevets, we know from Luke Harding, from a Czechoslovakian source that he had. We know from Khodorkovsky, right? Okay, we know from people that have been saying the same thing, and I'm going to guess all of those folks, and I think Dutch intelligence as well, I'm going to say all of those different reporters or sources don't have the same person telling them the same story. I think they do all have different sources, and they're getting this sort of touch point of information, and what that information is that's been coming out of them since and the Steele, Christopher Steele, we know it was in the Steele dossier, is that there is disruption inside of the Russian mafia intelligence complex, we'll call it that, and Vladimir Putin, that there are forces that want him out. It's not a symbiotic relationship anymore. So we also,
it never really is, but yes, you're right.
It never really is, but we know that there's been, it started with the Steele dossier, then we got it from Khodorkovsky when he went on BBC, and he told them in 2018 or 2019. We got it from Luke Harding separately in a separate thing, and we got it, I believe, from Dutch intelligence, and we got it from Yuri Shevets Here on Narativ, he said this on Narativ to us. All these different sources, all having their own different sources within Russian intelligence services, all of them saying that there's a clashing and a rift right now between the gangsters, the oligarchs, the intelligence services even behind Vladimir Putin and Putin himself. It's not a holistic, it's not everyone against Putin, but there is strife in there. So what does that tell us? That's in reality. That's
isn't it? It's not a monolith, LB. Yeah. It's not. Everybody isn't in complete, total lockstep.
And Putin doesn't make up everything. Putin is a very powerful dude, but he's the head of a massive administration, and that's how he's powerful.
He's not WandaVision, for God's sake.
Yeah, exactly.
Making his own reality,
That's right. Good job.
Line. Okay, so I shouldn't say
there is a rift. There is a rift, and so the fact that somebody that might be in that meeting or someone who had access to that document, and I think the reporting was it was someone in that meeting, could possibly be going against Putin in order to leak this information out. That's a reality. Okay, guys, that possibility exists in reality. So everybody's saying, oh, they would never do this and they would never let it out and da-da-da-da-da.
It's still a little bit of a story, but it's also a reality. It's true that they're having a political fight, but we don't know necessarily who may have leaked it yet.
The story would be that anyone outside of Russian intelligence service and our active intelligence services. So now I'm not talking about retired people. When you're out, guys. Okay, so retired people that are on Twitter or on anywhere else speaking as if they are somehow getting information from inside whatever intelligence agency they used to work for. I'm very skeptical of all of that. I'm just a skeptic of that. I only know how sort of one place operates, and I know that one place, when you're out, you're fucking out. And the second you walk out that door, you're retired or quitting, whatever your deal is.
You don't get access to the information. It's top secret information.
No. And not only that, is that it could change the moment you walk out the door. The information, everything you knew could have been changed by some new piece of information coming in that you don't have access to. So speaking with any authority on present day intelligence operations, unless you're speaking out from sources that are feeding it to you, and I mean you, I just mean anyone speaking that, just be very skeptical of that, right? Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean people don't have expertise. Of course they have expertise. And of course they know their area and their region that they studied. And we're so grateful for people for sharing their expertise and sharing all that with us. But something like knowing the legitimacy of this document, if you've been out of whatever agency you served in for quite a while, I don't know. I be skeptical.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyone outside of Russian intelligence services or our intelligence services having, that's a story. They're just telling you a story.
I've got some things to add to your reality.
Yeah. Oh, good. Bring it on. I'm going to write it down. You say.
Okay. So there's, three interesting things happened over these last through this document. We learned, in fact, that there's not one document. We learned that there's several documents, and people have to read this article. So there's basically three different documents that show up. And the first one was written by this guy, Vladimir Simonenko. I'm terrible with these Russian names. Now, he's the senior official. He's in charge of Kremlin expertise. In other words, he briefs the president on important stuff. He wrote the initial document. It was a 3-page summary that got to Vladimir Putin. Really wrote this thing, and that's what triggered this other document, and then finally this big meeting that happened on the 22nd. The second document was written by this guy, Alexander Manshozin, something like that, who's the chief of foreign policy directorate for Putin. So he's also an important dude. He's the person who would bring such a meeting like this together, a National Security Council meeting like this together. So these are now two different things that I believe they've seen, two documents which indicate that there's a series of things that happen that lead them to the National Security Council meeting on the 22nd. And then the meeting on that 22nd, and I'll pull this out in the full view for everyone in a second, because I went through and looked at everybody who's there in detail and figured out exactly what they were doing there. It's a pretty small little meeting. I mean, this is the National Security Council. Let me put it on full screen for you guys. It's not everybody in the world that's showing up there. It's basically the head of the intelligence of agencies, the FSB, the SVR. They had the foreign secretaries there. A few other famous people. The head of the defense ministries there. The kind of people you would want to make something like this operational. And so it's not that this is, people are saying, well, why would he have such a big meeting? It's not having a big meeting. He's having a meeting with key people he needs to do to enact something like this. Now, can you guys read the names there? If not, I can just point to your.
The main one is Patrushev.
There's Patricia. So if you go next to Putin, there's Dmitry Medvedev, who's the deputy PM. Next to him is Sergei Evgenovich Narishkin, who is the director of Foreign Intelligence Services now, since September 2016. He's the head of the SVR. So he's the kind of guy you'd want there. And he's the guy, by the way, this is really interesting because remember that there was a bunch of these guys that broke the sanctions to come and visit the Americans in 2018. He's one of the guys who broke sanctions. So he's in an Obama sanction list. And somehow he's allowed to have arrived to meet with who was he? He was meeting with all the intelligence chiefs of the Americans, right? I think it was still, I don't know who's in charge of the CIA then, but he and 3 other intelligence chiefs took this trip to Washington D.C. to meet up with our guys, and he was one of them. So he's also on the Obama sanction list. Not the kind of guy who would not be motivated to take action against the United States. And next to him is Nikolai Patrushev, who is now the head of the FSB, but back then he was something else. He was the head of the Security Council or whatever it was.
Council.
Yeah.
He's the guy. He's the name we're hearing.
Yeah.
And by we, I mean
that is the name that Yuri Shvets actually said to us was the likely successor to Putin, the person who is going to be even more dangerous, even more scary than Putin was Mr. Patrushev. And so he's also got some reason to be there because he's now running the FSB, and that would be an important thing to run during an operation like this. But also, he's got his eyes out for Putin's job. So these, then next to him is Lavrov, and then there's the current head of the then current head of the FSB, Bortnikov, was there. And then the deputy secretary of the Security Council, who I don't know who that is. But on the other side is the head of the Duma. I think she's just a figurehead, really. But next to her is Sergei Ivanov, who's Putin's chief of staff. Then it's the Ministry of Defense, Sergei Shoigu, who you'll remember they needed the GRU. I'm not showing you the actual picture. I'll show you the picture. Remember they needed the GRU to do a lot of this stuff. They needed to hack the DNC, for example. And the GRU, we know, did that. Well, guess who the GRU sits under? It sits under Shoigu. Plus, we know that they needed to do a lot of this media manipulation stuff that they were doing. All these attacks on our information system, all this disinformation attacks. That was also conducted partly by the GRU, but also by the SVR, and I think also the FSB. But that would be strange, I think, if the FSB was involved in that. You'd have to correct me on which one of those agencies LB was actually doing the disinformation there. But these are, and then next to Shoigu on the picture is the SVR chief, who was then the SVR chief, not currently. And then I don't know who Boris Gryslov is. I think he's a famous Russian who's sort of in every big meeting just to bless it.
Mikhail Fuckov? Is that his name? Oh, Fradkov. Sorry, I thought it was Fuckov. Sorry, my bad.
They all seem to go to rhyme with fuck off. So which is kind of what you want to tell them to do. But this is not like people are saying, well, why would Putin have such a meeting? We would have a secret meeting.
Because he was running it up. He's running it up.
I think he pulls it out of his. He uses ESP. He communicates by osmosis.
How do we know? 17 U.S. intelligence agencies also told us just several months after this that yes, it was Russian intelligence services that hacked into the DNC. Yes, it was Vladimir Putin at his order. So we know they were doing all of this. And if you think that there isn't a meeting in order to enact these things, this is a business. He's running his business of his mafia state, right?
LB, I'm sorry, but I don't think these documents are We're
Okay.
unverified, and
I
we're
wanna say this one- I
unverified,
wanna
and
say this
they
one
can't
thing.
be verified, and you don't know what you're talking about because you never worked in intelligence. I worked in intelligence. Let me tell
Oh,
you.
really? We're gonna know this?
You know, I can
You
tell by
know.
the typeface on the Cyrillic there.
Oh, excuse me.
That,
Let me get my check. Let me get my double check going. I don't know.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love it when
Are
you
we
break
allowed
it
to make
out.
fun of the Russians in that picture, by the way? Can we do that for a second? Just for one
Yeah,
second?
Yes.
go for it. Please do.
Okay.
I mean, that's what they're there for.
Can we? I mean, what a bunch of incel dork losers these are. Look at these guys. What a bunch of fucking losers. That's all.
Right?
That's all I have to say.
Yeah, I
There's
mean, really.
a lady in there. Too.
They
There's
got
one
like
lady.
one lady in there, and here's what she's thinking: get me the fuck out of this room.
No,
That's
she's
her.
not.
That's her thought
She's-
bubble. Is my God, when is
Oh.
this meeting over so I can leave these horrible men?
They
I
must be
just
thinking
keep
like,
talking about
we
her
really are going to
fucking
attack
losers
the
right
United
there.
States democracy. That's probably what's going through their mind. It's like, is this guy sane? Like they were going to attack the United States democracy, and he stole Donald Trump as the leader there. I mean, really?
Oh, they're excited. Look.
Oh, fuck off, fucked around, and he's going to find out. That's it.
I just want to. Here's the thing. All those people want to be there. They want to be doing what they're doing.
They're
No,
banking on
Putin
it.
is only. We know he's only barely 5 feet tall. Lavrov could have just stepped on him and squashed him at any time he wants and get rid of that little squashy bug. Okay, so the other thing I think that's important to put in the reality bubble, and this is what Craig Unger was saying today, and this is what people are collapsing. So I want to uncollapse it. This meeting is not. I don't believe that the reporting is saying or trying to pose it in any way, shape, or form that this meeting was the aha moment that Putin had and Russia intelligence services had of like, oh, we can use Donald Trump. Aha, who is he? We don't know him. And what Craig came, and this is another goes in the reality bubble. I'm sorry, everybody in the audience and everyone who sees this on the internet. This is in the reality bubble. You're going to have to deal with this reality. It has been confirmed 10 ways to Sunday. In the reality bubble, at the bottom, how I could do this. I can never
Oh, sorry.
do
Let
that.
me put you.
I can never do left and right on this.
You
damn
know,
thing.
it's
very
so
hard.
it's
Do it.
complicated for
Okay,
me
there we
too.
go. I figured
There,
it out.
You can do that. You can do that.
Okay.
You two of you.
Do you
though,
see
but-
that? Trump, KGB, 1980.
Fact.
Trump,
Fact.
King-
Yes.
No way.
You heard it here
Fact.
first.
Impossible.
He was recruited by the KGB when Russia was still when the Soviet Union was still intact in the 80s, right?
Right.
And it doesn't matter what that agency has become now. Blah 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 blah. They own him. They've owned him since the 80s. So he was there in their their fucketeer catalog, right? Of people they could put their pin on and say, pull that fucker out and let's get that guy going for us. So that's
He's a
not
mail
what
order
this was.
president.
He's a mail order president. Exactly. So don't think, right? And he's been laundering their money on all their flight capital and working with all these, private intelligence folks. It's just, he's a nightmare. This guy that was our president. This meeting and this reporting is not saying that this meeting was the aha moment of, oh, maybe this guy is so stupid we can use him. They knew exactly who he was.
Mm-hmm.
If there were some things
In great
thrown
detail.
out there,
Yeah.
in great detail, if there were things thrown out there in that meeting that got written down, it's because they're noting, remember, he's this, he's this, he's this, he's this, because they were going to run an information op on us, right? And
They were
wanted
being
to
very
be able to-
thorough in collecting all the
Being
information they
very
needed for
thorough.
an operation, so everyone
For
would
a
know what
psyop.
they're working on. Because
That's
they're working on an
right.
operation. I mean, it's so
That's
everyone needs to know.
right.
These 10 people around this room, or however many they are, need to know what they're going to be doing. So
Right.
he's telling them, he's giving them the order, and he has
Right.
to
And-
sign the order because that's the way they do things. Otherwise, people can say, "Well,
I
you didn't give us the order," so that's why
Right.
he signs it.
Now let's get we got to get the last thing in the reality
Okay,
versus
we just
story,
take a
'cause
commercial break. So
I
do
love
one of
this.
these, and
I
then we'll
love
take a
it.
commercial break.
Okay, we'll come
I
back
love
to
this
the
so much.
bubble.
Yeah, you can do,
No,
do
no,
one more.
do the bubble. Finish the bubble.
then we'll do a
This is
commercial.
really quick.
Yeah.
This is really quick. So then there was someone that put out there who reads Russian, right? And it was sort of like it said, the comma wouldn't be there, and the period wouldn't be here, and these misspellings wouldn't be there. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you. When you're taking notes in a meeting like that, they're not going to be perfect. I don't think it went to the editorial desk where the grammar check person, and I don't could make sure that it was all
The
right. 'Cause it was gonna go
Dostoevsky
for
scholar
publication.
read it over, LB, and
Right,
Pushkin
right.
made it into
I
poetry.
understand. So that's also a story. It could be that that's an important detail and data point that no one ever writing who is a native Russian speaker ever would write like this ever. I'm not seeing that though from others who say, no, these are just mistakes. Like you're just, this guy's just taking notes fast, right? And then so I know that there are people hung up on that one tweet that somebody sent out about that, and using that to disenfranchise this whole story. And I just want you to calm down as somebody who takes notes in big meetings and does writing. I'm telling you. I put commas in weird ass places too, like in dashes and like. I don't know that that's evidence, but I'm not discrediting it. I'm just saying that's in the story. It doesn't really go in the reality bubble yet.
No, I mean they'd be horrified at that. But one of those guys, I think the
no
guy I told you
editor.
about, the guy who was the FSB guy who came to visit here, was at the Obama sanctions list. He apparently plagiarized his entire doctorate. He's a doctor of something, and he plagiarized the whole thing. So these guys are not like particularly kosher on all their
this is a
dotting the I's.
Yes, so come on, let's get it together here.
So when we return, we'll go into the document. We've got lots of other things to share. We'll be right back. Hey everyone, thanks for supporting the Narativ podcast. Today's episode of the show is brought to you by Made In. If quality and craftsmanship is important to you, you should check out Made In. Made In is cookware and kitchenware brand that works with the renowned chefs and artisans to produce some of the world's best pots, pans, knives, and wine glasses. Made In produces professional quality cookware and knives for those who love to cook. They source their finest materials and partner with renowned craftsmen to make the premium kitchen tools available directly to you without the markup. Made In products are made to last, and they offer a lifetime guarantee. Their cookware distributes heat evenly and can easily go from the stovetop to the oven in no time. And their knives are fully forged, perfectly balanced, and they stay sharp. They have 28,000 plus 5-star reviews, and their products are used by some of the world's best chefs at Michelin-starred restaurants around the world. Made In, better cookware for better meals. Right now, Made In is offering our listeners 15% off your first order with the promo code NARRATIVE, NARATIV. This is the best discount available anywhere online for Made In products. Go to madeincookware.com/narrative, NARATIV, and use promo code narrative for 15% off your first order. That's madeincookware.com/narrative. Use promo code narrative. Well, there you go. Welcome back, everybody. Now you know how to spell narrative and where to put your right commas in Russian documents. By the way, LB, you're a believer in the Oxford comma, aren't you? I think we've had this debate when you've vetted some of my stories.
Everyone is a believer in the Oxford comma.
I don't know if I am.
The reason the Oxford comma, the reason that it takes out the comma is because it's AP style to not have the Oxford comma, and that's to save ink. It's to save money on printing newspapers, which doesn't even fucking happen anymore.
Or tweets letters. I mean, the characters in Twitter, you only get so many.
Yeah.
So
then maybe you have to do it. But it's not.
Listen, I'm a screenwriter and a poet, and so everything's dots and dashes and weirdness, and I don't use subjects and verbs. I'm actually the last person to ask, because whatever's going to get the emotion across for me, that's how I write. So, or the visual,
Well, now we know.
That's what I'm trying to write.
So the actual document that they wrote, and this is the only piece of it we've seen. It's quite small in this particular picture, unfortunately, because I didn't zoom in enough. But there's a little, it's a little segment of it. I mean, I don't read Russian and I don't understand Russian, but it looks like a pretty densely written Russian document. It looks like a lot of other things. This seems to be page 18, which means it's or at least point 18. Seems like a lengthy document they put out. Now, the other interesting thing that came out in this document was this assessment of Donald Trump, that he's impulsive, mentally unstable, and unbalanced individual who suffers from an inferiority complex. So check. They got it right.
What's Russian for duh?
Yes, but this was January 22nd in 2016. I mean,
we knew this then.
Did we know it then?
We knew this.
We knew this.
Yes, we did, and they did. But
we did.
These are important notes. They are. You have to keep it fresh. Of like, what are we dealing with? What is our subject? How do we control him? What kind of semantics are we going to push to him? What about him will sort of seal him to his followers? What can we work in there when they're pushing and creating propaganda? All of this is important stuff.
Why would the Russians put this, if this is a hoax document, just going down that theory of if it's a hoax document, why would the Russians put this in there? Like it sort of defeats their whole purpose. I mean,
because they want to make it. So here's the argument for the hoax. The argument for the hoax is that they're trying to trap journalists entrap us, right?
Mhm.
Trap, consumers of information, and folks are in the discourse and in the narrative into something that they can then prove was false, because then that allows them to discredit everything, right?
Mhm.
So, but we're smart people now, and if there's stuff that's not quite right in here, okay,
It does
fine.
gel. Yeah.
It doesn't. It doesn't mean. It doesn't erase the knowledge that we have in that reality bubble.
It's true. Facts are facts.
Well, that's the
And this is true about Donald Trump today. It's true. It was true then. And, they thought that in 2016, they must have had the knowledge of him that existed prior to 2016,
That's right.
all the way to the 1980s.
Look, my thing is, we knew from Volume 5, Volume 5, the bipartisan Senate Intelligence Committee report says the Russian government, that's the quote, okay, actively tried to basically tamper with our elections to try to install and help Trump. That's what Volume 5, the bipartisan Senate Intelligence Committee concluded. So if that actually happened, if we believe Volume 5, there was a meeting like this. Whether this document comes from that meeting or it's fake doesn't fucking make any difference, because there absolutely was a meeting, right? For all we know, the people on Volume 5 read this fucking thing 2 years ago. We don't know,
Well, we
This
do
might
know that
be
it was
old
actually
news.
doing the rounds in Western intelligence agencies prior to this, which reminds me of this important point that this could be a leak by Western intelligence agencies.
Yes,
Who are like out there to say
exactly.
to Vladimir Putin, that little Revel thing that you did last week that we told you shouldn't be doing. Maybe you'll appreciate the release of this document. I mean, that seems to be just as legitimate a reason for how this document came out as that it might be a hoax. And one other thing, just before I forget, is do you remember Konstantin Kilimnik?
Yeah, he's
the
not
guy.
there.
He's not there, but he reports he's GRU. Wasn't that the idea that he was GRU? I think he was.
Yeah.
Well, he reports to Mr. Shogu over here on the right. So he was there to give Mr. Kilimnik his orders to go and get those documents from Paul Manafort of all the polling that Donald Trump was getting done during the election campaign. So that's how this stuff gets communicated down the line to Konstantin Kilimnik.
I was thinking of Konstantin Kosachev. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah. No. Kilimnik. Don't forget that because Paul Manafort also ran the campaign of Yanukovych, that he probably had a direct relationship with somebody at that table as well. I would be surprised if he didn't. So
more than one.
Michael Flynn has a direct relationship with the man at the head of that table. So
that's right.
There you go.
And he used to run our psyops, right?
One more point, okay? Gary Kasparov, the chess master / Russian dissident politician, said, basically, I'm going to paraphrase a little bit. Why are we arguing about whether or not this is real? Would having his signed confession change anything?
Yes.
And he's right. First of all, we're never going to fucking know if this is real or not. So whether you're in basket 1 or basket 2, it makes no goddamn difference. So we might as well just run with this thing because, again,
we have it.
If you believe Volume 5, if you believe the intelligence community, if you believe Hillary Clinton, if you believe Christopher Steele, if you believe the Mueller report, if you believe all of these things, that Russia really did try to fuck with our election by installing this fucking asset money laundering doofus into the White House, if you believe that, which you should because it's fucking true, then there absolutely was a meeting just like this. Whether this was the actual meeting, at the end of the day, who gives a shit? There definitely was a meeting, period, full stop, since we're talking about grammar.
Yeah, thank you very much. They also point to, it's a very good point. I mean, this is just, these are just, it's backing up the narrative that we already know to be true. It also seems to back up the narrative that there was some compromise involved. They did have compromise. Now, it doesn't reveal what the compromise is, but it talks about his past visits to Trump's past visits to Russia and what he may have done during those past visits to Russia. And we don't get to see that appendix, unfortunately, although I'm sure an intelligence agency in the West has seen that appendix. So, poor Luke Harding just got left without that information. But there's compromise on Donald Trump, and I guess now the Western intelligence agencies know it too. which reminds me of that Helsinki meeting and what must have happened backstage. And Noel Kassler is convinced that this is what happened backstage, that just before Donald Trump comes out on that stage, he thinks Putin showed him the compromat. And that's why Trump was looking as sheepish and ridiculous and disgusting as a leader as you could possibly imagine. That's what he thinks happened there, which wouldn't surprise me.
Maybe.
Wouldn't surprise me.
I think he was absolutely told, you cannot appear taller than him,
Right.
which is a feat, because even though Donald lies about his size,
Right.
his
He's
height,
still taller than Putin.
Vladimir Putin is barely 4'11". So it's, he had to really shrink down, and Putin had to walk tall, and Donald probably took the lifts out of his shoes. And then I'm not even sure that was the podium that Donald was supposed to go to at Helsinki. It seemed like Putin took the podium he wanted. Yeah, he owns him.
Yeah, he owns him. He looks like he owns him. And you can see why. He's got all this information about him, and that's why he elected him president. There is one thing that I will say that is there's these, the media viruses that they describe in these as weapons that they will use to hurt American society. Self-sustaining media viruses and self-replicating that will alter mass consciousness in certain groups, which frankly must have been happening, because look at what's happened to American society.
That's exactly right.
And this is the thing that gets me, and this is why I don't agree with Kasparov. It's still happening today. This stuff is still happening today. It's not something we could just say it doesn't matter. This is still happening today. And if this is proof that Vladimir Putin is operating weapons of mass disinformation on the American society to drive these massive wedges into society that are forcing people to, blow up. These guys arrested were today. They were going to blow up something. I don't know, some city.
California Democratic Party.
There you go. I mean, if these guys are, if this man is waging an act of war against the United States, that is forcing Americans or somehow encouraging Americans through psycho, weapons of some sort to take on these violent acts against Americans, then this man is at war with us, and we need to be at war with him. And it's not just okay to go and say, "Hey, listen, buddy, can you knock off the hacking thing?" This is an act of war. They're operating a full-on war, and Americans are suffering. We are going to continue to suffer until these disinformation machines are switched off. And I include Fox News amongst many of those disinformation machines needs to be turned off. That's the only way these things get. I mean,
Shut
who's
it
giving?
the fuck down.
Who's giving
the media virus?
Who's giving Tucker Carlson these talking points every night? It's got to be coming out of the Kremlin.
There's a really important point here in this language, though. Self-sustaining, self-replicating.
Right.
So I don't know how much involvement they even need to have anymore. Americans have picked this up and are running with it, and an Australian family. Speaking of Fox, so they're this, we got infected. It's an infection. That's why it's a media virus, and it's now replicating on itself thanks to Americans participating in it. And I do think that there's some lawmakers involved in all this, quite clearly, and have been for quite a while. So I don't know how much we need from the Kremlin anymore.
Well, I do think they're still involved, and I do think that
I do too. I'm not discrediting that. I'm just saying the point of it was, the point of the attack and the act of war is that they could launch their weapons at us, right? And then let it fester and spread like a virus or like an opioid, addictive substance. It's still coming. It still came from them. It still got all of their support. But I don't want to take the responsibility off the shoulders of the Americans right now that have been willfully participating in this, and know where it came from. Yeah. From the lawmakers to the media companies, they all know they came from the Kremlin. They know. Yeah, and they're
if these guys own Donald Trump the way that they own Donald Trump, then they also own the Republican Party in the same way. And why else are these people behaving in the way they are? It's just they're only behaving this way because someone is exerting an enormous amount of pressure on them. And amongst those groups of people must be Vladimir Putin still. I think
the media virus that we're worried about is called the Tucker Carlsonus.
Yes.
And
You
is
need a
there an
vaccine for
inoculation for that? Maybe
You
he
take
thinks
him
getting
off the
vaccinated
air.
will also vaccination against COVID-19 will also vaccinate against the Tuckerus Carlsonus,
I mean,
which is fucking killing our brains. It eats into the brain and makes you stupid.
and the variants on that. I mean, it gets worse and worse all the time. I mean, it's
the
just
bow tie gets shorter and shorter as the penis shrinks and the anger grows.
I mean,
Did you see the picture of him in his fucking garage? Like he's gonna go like do some like
woodwork,
do it yourself
woodworking.
shit. Oh my god! Like I'm bad. Oh my god, that guy would be helpful. I don't think he can hammer a nail.
I mean,
that's it.
How they go to sleep at night knowing that they have now spread this, this Delta variant through all their viewers, basically, because they've told them not to get vaccinated. It's just astonishing.
And why
there's no way to shut them down.
There are people that are evil. He's evil. Tucker Carlson is an evil person. Rupert Murdoch is an evil man. There are evil people in the world, and those people are just fucking evil.
Let's take their broadcast licenses away from them. How about that? How about we not let them broadcast? They don't need to have broadcast licenses.
Get him.
I don't understand why he can go on TV and lie about the virus. I don't understand. I think they should just, just go arrest him and just let him fucking fight it out in court. Like at this point,
take him off the air and let him all go to court. Why is Rupert Murdoch being allowed to put all this crap in our air anyhow? Like
fucking can I just for 1 second here?
Yeah,
I know we want to talk about other things, but
go right ahead.
God bless the Texas Democrats, in the state house there, because what they are doing is they're thinking outside the box. They are the only Democrats seemingly in the whole fucking country that understand what we're up against and are willing to bend the rules and do stuff to, preserve democracy in this country. Everybody else, it's all about process. Well, parliamentary procedure. We have to blah blah. We have to check with the Senate Parliament. Fuck that noise.
Right.
Fucking try something different. None of this shit is working. This Joe Manchin motherfucker, whatever you need to do, maybe Kamala Harris needs to do the Lisa Kerr plan and go in there and be like, hi, I'm the Senate Majority Leader now. Fuck you. Filibuster's not in the Constitution. Vote on this shit right the fuck now. And then just do it. What are they going to do? What Mitch McConnell's going to be like, fuck you, Mitch, and your purple fucking hands. Try something new. Think of something to do and try it. At least Donald Trump is an evil motherfucker, but at least he tried stuff. He went in there and he thought, let's see what we can try to fuck with them. We need to do the same thing, but for the forces of good. That's what we need to do. And these guys are they're stuck in their fucking bubble of, well, it's always been done this way. And we want to get the Department of Justice back to how the Department of Justice. No, we don't.
No, we don't.
We
want to shut this thing down. We want to shut this thing down.
This shit has been fucked up since Nixon.
Yeah.
Fucking fix it. Yeah. For God's sake.
It's, You're 100% right. I mean, look, we have to take some really firm action here. And this waffling around the edges and working on process is not going to get us anywhere. We need to shut down the MAGA movement, which means we need to arrest the leaders of the MAGA movement for the crimes that they've committed.
What are they going to do?
And we need
Glenn Greenwald is going to write an article. Oh my God, Biden is a fascist. He's doing that anyway. Give him something to write. This will make Glenn Greenwald will be in Brazil jerking off until next Wednesday. If Biden does that.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, yes, they'll be accused of all the terrible things, of all these terrible things of being, of not following the First Amendment and about all these other things. But the thing is, in his justification for this whole thing, Putin's justified his whole act against America as an act of self-defense against war. So he believed that he was acting in self-defense against American aggression towards us. Well, guess what? It's time for us to act in self-defense against him because they've been attacking us. We are at war with these guys. Let's shut them down. We have all the capability to do it. Why are we not doing it? I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know why we're not doing it.
I don't know. I think we should look. I do think that there's some soft power stuff going on in a big way right now, and so let's see where that leads.
Yeah,
let's see where it leads. But the Department of Justice, slow walking everything. The grandpa pace going on. Excuse me, grandpas, but
seriously,
it's a little much.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like. you would expect someone who's led an insurrection, an attempted coup, to be arrested on the day that that attempted coup took place. He's still out there doing whatever he's doing in wherever he is these days.
Meanwhile, our black lawmakers were arrested for peacefully protesting in the Capitol. Somehow, black people can always get arrested in America at the drop of a coin.
Pardon them right the fuck now. Just pardon them now.
Yes.
It's insane.
The Department of Justice was founded during Reconstruction to combat the KKK because of racism. Yes. Back then, under Grant, they gave a shit and understood what was going on. I don't know what has happened to this place. If everybody's so obsessed with Kardashians and Caitlyn Jenner's now Caitlyn Jenner's going to be on the Celebrity Go Fuck Yourself show or whatever it is. Who gives a shit?
Britney Spears lost her freedom. Guess what? America's losing its freedom. Why do we care more about Britney Spears than we do about? I mean, God bless Britney.
It's true though.
But it's true.
More about the salary cap and the fucking NFL than this shit. Yeah. So, like, Huxley and Orwell got one thing very wrong. They did not get how fucking dumb everything was going to get. Right. Just how stupid everything was going to get. How dumbed down everything was going to get.
Yeah,
Idiocracy got that right.
Yeah.
Where Ass wins Best Picture. Where Ass, a movie called Ass, wins 14 Oscars, including Best Screenplay, and it's just a picture of a guy's ass for 2 hours. That's from Idiocracy. That's a guy who understood a thing.
Right. That's where we're heading. Where we are.
People that won't get vaccinated, like, what the fuck do you need? How much more evidence do you need?
Right.
Yeah.
How much more evidence do you need? Your mother goes and dies, and she's on the ventilator. What are you doing?
What's also really troubling me about all of that is that you've got these people who mean to do well in these states who either want to run fair elections or get people vaccinated, who are getting intimidated, who are quitting their jobs because they're getting death threats because they dare to suggest that school children should get vaccinated. I mean, that is now a reason to get fired from your job in a state, or that you can't teach race or racism in some schools, or you'll lose your teaching license in Oklahoma. I mean, we've gotten to the point of like ludicrousness that it's just like, that's not America anymore that those people are practicing over there. We need to just shut it down. They're just not doing it the way, they're not following the rules. That's not the country we built.
I had a very wise friend say to me, that's okay. It's good to be upset about this.
Yeah.
People are dying. People are dying, and it's it's an intentional act to create this genocide among the unvaccinated, either to just create chaos and have our systems collapse, or to try to pin something on Joe to get rid of him so that they can get their fascist in there and sort of hang this. So I had a friend say to me last week, very wise woman, said, I think what we're really up against is a death cult. And I think that there's real truth to that. Of the nihilists are at the wheel. They've been given immense power, and they have figured out that mass death is somehow their way to even more power. And so that's really what we're staring in the face of, that evil shit, which is why everyone keeps reaching back to fascism and of the 30s and 40s and evoking that word and evoking that era, because that was the last time we really were also up against a global death cult. Mm-hmm. So I think it's important to just be prescient to that, to be outraged about it, but also to not feel so helpless. I do think we can keep pushing our leaders. I love what the Texas Democrats, the legislators did. They just did it, and look at what happened. Did it upset people? Oh, did it blah, blah, blah? All this stuff that stops Democrats from doing big, bold things like that. It didn't happen. It freaked everybody out on the right, because all of a sudden,
it was great.
They grabbed the narrative. They grabbed the narrative and they ran with it, and they were in control of it. And it doesn't make the other thing come back and strangle you. It makes the abuser freak the fuck out.
Yeah,
right?
Of course. They don't know what to do next.
Abusers. They don't know what to do. Oh my God. And it worked. It's stuff like that's going to keep working. It's going to keep working. We're not helpless.
Regarding the Texas Democrats, I was going to launch some products, some merch on Narativ, and I designed some gear which I'll launch, I guess, over the next few days, I guess, but which is all around their logo, which is all around their slogan, which is, no, I can't believe I can't remember it. It's the fight of our lives. Fight of our lives.
Oh, the
Which I
fight
think
of our
is,
lives.
yeah,
That's good. That's
which
good.
is great. So great. It's cool
good.
shit, and I will share it with everyone either on the Twitter
good.
feed.
I love it.
Because it's I got inspired by them. But I'm saying these guys have got the idea. They've got the idea of what they're going for, and they've got an idea of doing things differently, and a grassroots movement that really is going to make a difference.
Speaking of nihilism, before we end the show, because I know you have that look on your face.
Well, I have that look on my face saying that there's no ways we're going to get to Maxwell. Like, there's no chance. So Maxwell.
No. We'll do that next time.
Yeah, we do have to take a break, and then we're going to come back for something else. But yes, go ahead. You do your thing.
Just speaking of nihilists and pop culture, again, we must quote Walter Kubchak from The Big Lebowski, who said, "Say what you will about National Socialism. At least it was an ethos. These nihilists, that's it. They don't believe in anything."
We'll be right back, everybody. Hey there, friends. Thanks for watching and listening to the Narativ podcast. I have a question for you. Why do only 4 companies control 80% of the U.S. meat industry? Well, that's because big food absolutely crushes the little guy. But you can help change that with moinkbox.com. Moinkbox delivers grass-fed and grass-finished beef and lamb, pastured pork and chicken, and wild-caught Alaskan salmon direct to your door, helping family farms become financially independent outside of big agriculture. Their animals are raised outdoors, their fish swim wild in the ocean, and Moink meat is free of antibiotics, hormones, sugar, and all the other junk you find prepackaged in the meat aisle. With Moink, you get the highest quality meat you've ever tasted while supporting real family farms. Sign up at moinkbox.com/narrative and you'll get a year of bacon for free. And then you can also pick what meats you want delivered with your first box. Change what you get each month and cancel at any time. Moink meat is so tender and delicious. I absolutely know you will love it. So do the people who created it, which Moink was founded by an 8th-generation farmer who was featured on Shark Tank. The sharks loved it so much, they invested so much money in this particular product in Moink Box that they guarantee you'll say, "Oink, oink, I'm just so happy I got moinked." I know I am, and I'm positive you'll be too. Join the Moink movement today. Go to moinkbox.com/narrative right now. And listeners to this show get free bacon for a year. That's 1 year of the best bacon you've ever tasted, but for a limited time. Spelt Moink, MOINK, box.com/narrative, NARATIV. That's moinkbox.com/narrative. Don't worry, Greg. You'll get to do that next time. I just didn't have time to record that with you, and I know how much you like Moinkbox. So next time,
Moinkbox is good shit, man.
Oink
Good.
oink. That's their thing. LB.
Yeah.
You have been away for a couple of weeks, and you wanted to share something with the audience, and over to you.
Okay, so I launched The World Beneath on the June 28th. The series dropped, and I thank everybody for all the support on all that. That's been amazing. The next day, my brother was shot and killed in DC. So we're all pretty shattered. He was an innocent bystander. I just want to talk about my brother for a minute because I haven't done that. I know you guys have seen me on Twitter since and promoting the show. I want you to know that before I get to my brother, I just want to thank everyone here, Zev and Craig. You've been amazing for me and my family, and some wonderful folks on Twitter that you all know about really rose to the occasion. Glenn Kirshner has been a rock for me, and Fred Gutenberg was there for my parents in a really beautiful way, and I'm so grateful to him. And Lou New, my dear friend, took over my Twitter, so a lot of that was her tweeting out at you guys in my voice. She somehow captured it so that she could support the show and keep all that going. So my brother Jerry was a really beautiful man. He's a husband, a son, my brother, and a father, 2 boys. He was, my dad's an amazing dad. And I'm not just saying this to hero worship my brother right now, but I will say that my brother was the greatest parent I've ever witnessed and ever been around. He was just superb. Just, you know, he was a man of peace. He worked in the Peace Corps for years and years. He started there. He was a Peace Corps volunteer, and then he went and worked for, got a degree from Columbia. He's a very established, prominent man, and worked for the Ford Foundation and the Aspen Institute. And he did things, he specialized in Africa there, the Ford Foundation, for that NGO. And, here I am on Twitter, fighting corruption by going, mobster, mob, right, doing my silly mob stuff. Well, my brother did things like, I don't remember what African country it was. He pretty much took on a continent and many other territories all over the world, but for the places he worked. But he realized that, just as an example of the kinds of things that he did for the world, is he realized, that the money wasn't getting to people that needed it in a microeconomic development sense. And it was being stored in the government, and there was all this opportunity for corruption because people didn't have addresses. And part of the fine ink on some of how some of money gets to people is like, they have to have an address, right? So my brother went door to door, hut to hut, and gave everyone in an entire village, if not city, and so that they could get the aid they needed, and that actually ended quite a bit of corruption. So he fought corruption that way. He did it all over the world, and he developed programs and oversaw programs, and that helped to spread peace. Literally, he was a peacekeeper and a peacemaker. So that he was taken by gun violence is very shocking, and it's only to be discussed that way. I will not tolerate hearing it discussed any other way. Just so you guys know, you're going to see me. I'm going to be off Twitter for a little bit. I just need to take care of myself. I kind of had to be there for my parents and hold everyone together for a while, but I need a little time. We'll put up some stuff for Jerry. There is a foundation that is accepting gifts in his name, and it's all about developing the arts for victims of gun violence and survivors, families of gun violence, so that they can use the arts to heal. That's very much in the vein of my brother. So that's what happened.
You're so brave to talk about this, LB, and to share it with the audience and to share it with us. And I know how just traumatizing I don't know how traumatizing, to be honest, but I can sense how traumatizing the last couple of weeks have been for you. And
it's very difficult. Yeah, I want to say that listen to the parents, whether it's parents of a young child taken by a gun, or my parents who were, elderly and their son was full grown and certainly had a rich, full life and was a parent himself. There's wisdom that came out of my parents in this moment was profound. People like Fred Gutenberg, we really need to listen to the parents. I'm going to be supporting their voice. They have a clarity I don't have. Losing a child is the worst imaginable thing, and losing a child to homicide is awful. So, those are the voices we need to amplify and support and let them lead us. I do think there'll be some pretty profound leadership out of my family. We just need a moment, to find our feet. I do want to say this. I was with my brother. Greg, you just missed him by like a day in New York, I think.
I know.
And So we were recording some voiceover work for The World Beneath. And so he's in my show. And his episode is just a little part, but it's on Monday. So I'll be letting you guys, you'll hear him. And I'll let you know who he is in that.
All right, so that's on the Monday edition of the
That's
World
Monday.
Beneath.
Yeah.
You know, Obi, I prepared a video and it's not playing, and I'm going to
It's
let
okay.
that happen afterwards because it's just not going to happen right now. But I'll hopefully
fine.
share it with you at a
That's
different time. And thank you for sharing this with us. It's a sad note to leave the show tonight, but
It's a sad note. I'm sorry, everybody. I just hang on to each other. We don't need to be attacking each other. We don't.
No.
Just hang on to one another.
You've been very, very brave throughout all of this, and thank you very much for sharing that. And actually just found it, so we'll end the show with a little tribute to your brother.
Okay. Thank
Good
you.
night. Good night, everybody.